The mystery of rich countries that don't live like the rich. Ever wonder why? You work your tail off, pinch every penny, stash money in the bank, try to pay down that mortgage, and still feel like you're not getting any closer to financial freedom? Maybe you're thinking, I just need to hustle a little harder and everything will click. But there's another possibility, a scarier one, that you've been heading in the wrong direction from the jump. Let me tell you something wild. The Japanese, in one of the most developed and stable countries on Earth, mostly don't buy homes. The Germans, with an incredibly solid banking system, aren't big on parking their savings in banks. Sounds nuts, right? In America, the first things we're taught are, owning a home is the American dream. Putting money in the bank is the safest way to keep it. So why are two wealthy, highly educated nations ditching these supposedly golden rules? If you're feeling like something's off about how our society handles money, if you've ever asked yourself, why am I always drowning in debt? Why do I still feel broke even when I'm making more? Why don't the truly rich play by the same rules as everyone else? Then this video is for you. And I promise you this. If you stick with me through this video, you'll see a massive financial black hole that's sucking the life out of millions of Americans every single day, while smarter countries have quietly found an escape hatch. I get it. That feeling like you're stuck in the slow lane in a race where you never really knew the rules. You learn to save. You listen to the experts. You do everything by the book. But you don't feel richer, just more stressed out. And then, you look over at Japan, and they're not obsessed with homeownership. You look at Germany, and they're not hoarding cash in banks. So what gives? What are they doing? Coming up, we're going to start peeling back the layers of so-called American financial wisdom. Not to knock it, but to show you there are other options. Options to break free from a trap you might not even realize you're in. We're going to dive into 7 counterintuitive financial habits from these powerhouse countries. Habits that actually help their people live with more freedom, less fear, and build sustainable wealth. 7 counterintuitive financial habits of rich countries, and the lessons Americans are missing. 1. The Japanese don't buy homes. Why real estate isn't always a smart move. In the US, you always hear, buy a house ASAP. It's the safest investment you can make. But in Japan, a lot of young folks aren't bothered with buying. Heck, even people in their 40s and 50s are opting to rent for life. Why? First off, home values in Japan actually go down over time. A house isn't an appreciating asset like it often is stateside. Thanks to earthquakes and urban planning policies, old houses lose value fast, while upkeep is a killer. The bottom line? A house isn't a wealth-building machine there. Second, Japanese culture values flexibility and freedom. Buying a house means you're chained to one area, one job, one way of life. The Japanese want to be able to move, switch careers, relocate, without being weighed down by a monster mortgage. And finally, the Japanese get this. Taking on a 30-year mortgage doesn't make you rich, it makes you a slave to the lender. Meanwhile, Americans are chasing that dream of ownership and quietly signing up for 3 decades of backbreaking interest payments. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. Owning a home isn't automatically smart finance. Don't let your feelings, or what society tells you, drag you into a debt spiral. 2. Germans don't hoard cash in banks because they know money never sleeps. If you went to Germany and asked a middle-aged person how much you got stashed in the bank, they'd probably laugh and say, I don't keep my money there. Unlike Americans, who think banks are the safest place for money, Germans are super wary of inflation and what their money's actually worth. They lived through a time when the German mark became worthless practically overnight. That lesson is burned into their collective memory. With savings interest rates near or below zero for years, Germans know money sitting in a bank is slowly vanishing. So, they find ways to keep their money working, investing in small businesses, government bonds, community funds that have real-world value. Meanwhile, plenty of Americans are happy with their 0.01% interest savings accounts, thinking it's playing it safe. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. Money's only valuable when it's working smart. Don't let your assets collect dust, because the market sure isn't standing still. 3. Swedes prefer renting to buying. They focus on building freedom, not piling up fixed assets. Sweden has one of the most modern and fair rental systems anywhere. Young Swedes don't see renting as some kind of failure. They see it as a smart move to stay financially agile so they can invest in experiences, education, or their own startups. Instead of dumping all their income into a house, they spread their cash around. Some in stocks, some in a new business venture, some on travel. All things that build experience and knowledge, instead of tying them down to one piece of dirt. While Americans are forking over nearly 40% of their income for a mortgage, Swedes are using that kind of cash to create new income streams. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. A house isn't the end goal, it's a tool. If it's costing you opportunities to grow, you might want to rethink it. 4. The Swiss don't put all their eggs in one basket. They diversify risk like it's a religion. In Switzerland, one of the richest and most stable places on earth, people still don't blindly trust any single system. They spread their assets out. Some in the bank, some in precious metals, some in international holdings, some in family businesses. This thinking comes from their long history of neutrality and surviving global meltdowns. And Americans? Nearly 60% of adults don't even have $1,000 saved for an emergency, and most of their wealth is tied up in their job or their house, making them super vulnerable when a crisis hits. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. Don't bet the farm on one thing. Not your bank, not your house, not even the company you work for. 5. Singaporeans teach kids about money from age 6. They don't hide financial truths from them. In Singapore, kids learn about money super early. Schools teach budgeting, how to manage spending, and the basics of investing. Many families even set up small investment accounts for their kids and teach them how to make their own calls. Americans? Most students graduate high school not knowing what an APR is, clueless about how to read a credit card statement, and then get tossed into the real world saddled with tens of thousands in student loan debt. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. Don't wait until you're grown up to learn how to handle money. And don't let your kids fall into the same cycle of financial cluelessness you might have. 6. Asian Canadians prioritize cash flow over the dream of ownership. Right here in North America, Asian immigrant communities, especially Chinese, Vietnamese, and Indian folks in Canada and the US, often have a totally different approach to money. They're not dreaming of the house with the white picket fence from the movies. They prioritize buying assets that generate cash flow, nail salons, rental properties, small restaurants. They're not chasing designer labels. They're focused on building capital to invest or start a business. And guess what? These groups often see their personal wealth grow faster than the national average, even if they started with less. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. The American dream is often a script for spending money, not building wealth. Get real. 7. The Dutch prioritize time over money. They design their lives, not get swept away by them. In the Netherlands, the idea of being part-time rich is catching on, working fewer hours, earning enough, but having way more time for family, health, and creative pursuits. Americans, on the other hand, are obsessed with the hustle, grinding out 50 to 60 hours a week, and sometimes losing sight of what life's even about in the chase for more money. Backhand index pointing right takeaway. Being rich isn't just about how much money you have. It's about controlling your time and choosing the life you actually want. Next up, we're going to wrap up these 7 big lessons and talk about the mindset trap that the modern financial system in America is trying to keep you in, making you feel like you're doing all the right things, when really, you're just running in circles. Conclusion. The dream you're chasing. Is it yours, or did someone else cook it up for you? You've just seen how 7 of the wealthiest, most stable countries on the planet handle their money, and it's often the complete opposite of what Americans do. They don't buy houses at any cost. They don't put blind faith in banks. They don't kill themselves working 60-hour weeks just to pay for some vague idea of stability, because they get one thing. Real stability doesn't come from owning stuff. It comes from being in control. Control of your cash flow. Control of your time. Control of your own financial thinking and habits. The system doesn't want you to know that. You were taught. Work hard. Save your money. Buy a house. Put your money in the bank. Pay your debts on time. And if you're lucky, retire at 65 with a decent pension. But what's the reality? That money in your savings account? It's losing value every day thanks to inflation. Buying a house at the wrong time? That can be a 30-year prison sentence. Working yourself to death without a real strategy? It just makes you old fast, not rich. And retirement? Who's guaranteeing that system will even be around when you hit 65? While you're chasing stability, the people who understand how the game is played are finding shortcuts to cash flow, smart investments, more time, and real freedom. So, the bottom line question is, are you living the life you chose, or the one someone else programmed into you since you were a kid? Nobody's forcing you to buy a house. Nobody's making you keep all your cash in a low-interest savings account. Nobody's chaining you to this financial rat race. Except Maybe you are, if you keep blindly following the same old advice. Wake up. Just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it right. Sometimes, to get truly wealthy, you've got to be willing to swim against the tide. Clapperboard if you found this video helpful. Do me a favor and share it with a friend who's wrestling with their finances. Maybe this is the wake-up call they need. Brain, and if you want me to do a deeper dive into how the really rich families build wealth that lasts for generations, we're talking 3 to 5 generations deep, drop a comment below saying, I want to know. I'll spill some secrets you definitely didn't learn in school.